my hottest UFC takes. That's what I want to talk about today, guys. And I don't necessarily mean that by hot takes that every single person that watches this video is going to disagree with what I'm saying, but I'd say that these are not a popular opinion amongst the community of MMA for the most part, and therefore I would consider them a hot take. So with that being said, guys, let's get right into it. We got 12 of them today. My first hot take is Kamaru Usman is a better fighter than Leon Edwards. Now, I know that sounds crazy being that Leon beat him twice, but man, watching all three of their fights, I still feel like Usman's the better fighter. Yes, Leon won the last two fights. He KO'd Usman in the second fight, and he comfortably beat him in the third fight. But I don't know, man. I feel like if it wasn't for age and bad knees, Kamaru Usman beats Leon Edwards again and again and again. And he showed that in the first fight in 2015. And then, obviously, Leon was much younger. And then he showed that in the second fight. Yeah, he had some hairy moments in the first round, but he dominated the second fight outside the first round up until the last minute where he got head kicked. And then in the third fight, he held his own, in my opinion. It's not like Leon Edwards destroyed Usman in the third fight. So, in my opinion, this might sound like an absolutely delusional take, and it might be. I think Kamaru Usman is better than Leon Edwards. I mean, the only thing Leon Edwards has over Kamaru Usman, in my opinion, is that he's maybe like a more technical striker. I think Kamaru Usman has more power. I think Kamaru Usman has better cardio. I think Kamaru Usman is more dangerous, has better wrestling. Maybe Leon's has better submissions because Kamaru doesn't really submit people. But yeah, guys, most people are going to think this is a hot take because they're going to say, how can you say a fighter who's 1-2 against another fighter is the better fighter? But I feel like age is a big factor in this one. Kamaru was 36 when he fought Leon Edwards the second time, I believe. And now he's 37, going to be 38 next year. So yeah, man, say what you want about this take, but I'm sticking to my guns, boys. Kamaru Usman is still a better fighter than Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards sucks. All right, let's go on to the second one. My second hot take, Islam is the greatest lightweight of all time over Khabib. Now, I've actually made a whole video on this, but I'm going to reiterate it in this video. Khabib fans, Khabib meat riders all the time talk about, man, how's Islam better than Khabib, dude? Khabib was so dominant, man. Never been cut, barely lost a round. And I get that narrative, but dominance isn't the only thing that goes into being the greatest. Islam has more wins at lightweight than Khabib. He has 14, maybe even 15. He has more wins. He has a longer win streak. Khabib at 13. Islam is on a 14 win streak. Faced better competition. Khabib never fought a Charles Oliveira or like another dangerous grappler that could threaten his style. He always fought, yeah, you can say he fought RDA and Gleison Tibau and all these guys that challenged him, but I always felt like Khabib was hand-fed strikers, like a Ally Quinta, like a Edson Barboza, like a Justin Gaethje, like a Dustin Poirier. Like, you get what I'm saying, like a Conor McGregor. All these guys are strikers, and Khabib wasn't as tested as much as Islam's being tested. Islam faces the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world in Volkanovski. He faces the dangerous Charles Oliveira, who has the most submissions. It's supposed to be the counter to the Dagestani style, and he finishes him by submission. He also has more finishes than Khabib in his run, and he has the same amount of title defenses. So, I mean, in my opinion, this shouldn't even be a hot take, but because of the Khabib fan base and how like insanely like nut riding they are, you have to say that this is a hot take because I 100% believe that Islam has passed up Khabib on the all-time list of lightweights. And then if he beats Arman in the rematch, there's absolutely no argument for Khabib. He'll be on a 15-fight win streak in the lightweight division, and he'll have more title defenses. But even right now, I still say Islam is over Khabib on the all-time list. Debate me in the comments about it, boys. And if you're going to say Khabib is better, why is he better? I want to know. Either way, let's move on to the next hot take in this video. Merab Dvalishvili is not really good anywhere, and he just has insane cardio. Now, that might sound like an insane take being that he's champion, but this guy, when you really look at it, he has sloppy striking, he has sloppy takedown attempts, 0 submission ability, 0 knockout power. Bro really got the belt off of cardio, and he's nearly admitted accidentally to take an EPO at a press conference. And given his cardio, I would not be surprised. I'm actually almost convinced this guy's on EPO. Attempted 49 takedowns against Petr Yan and never got tired. Like, that is just unhuman. And some people are going to jump in the comments and say, what do you mean, dude? He's not skilled or not good anywhere. His cardio is good. That is a skill. Like, no, dude. I think cardio, for the most part, is genetic. You either have it or you don't. Yes, you can train to improve your cardio, but you can't train to have Merab-like cardio. That's not something you train for. There are people that train their entire career, and their cardio just never reaches that level. I would argue that if it wasn't for Merab's cardio, he wouldn't even be a top 10 fighter. I mean, where is he good? Who is he submitted in the UFC? Nobody. Who's he knocked out in the UFC? Nobody. He TKO'd a Marlon Moraes who got KO'd by everybody in the division. He has no knockdowns, no submissions in the UFC, and yeah, I think Merab literally has cardio and nothing else. I mean, like I said, he's champion in bantamweight, so this might sound like an absolute casual take, guys, but when you really sit back and look at it, where is Merab skilled? You can say he's a good wrestler, but is he? He just had such good cardio that he can just spam shots over and over and over and over, and he breaks the other fighter's rhythm so much that they can't stop the takedowns. But is his wrestling really that great? Is his technique really that great? I mean, I guess in itself, spamming takedowns maybe you can say he has good wrestling. I don't know, dude. I just feel like Merab is like a budget version of Umar. Umar has good striking. He has good submissions. He has somewhat knockout power. He's dangerous everywhere. He's good everywhere. Whereas Merab, it just feels like this guy has insane cardio and that's it. And I guess in the bantamweight division, insane cardio was enough for him to become champion. So this is going to be an interesting one to see what people say in the comments. Can't wait to see the replies to this one. Either way, let's move on to the next one, guys. We got Sean Strickland does not deserve a title shot over Khamzat. Now, let me say, a lot of people are Strickland fans and are going to be in the comments saying, bro, what do you mean he doesn't deserve a rematch, bro? He literally beat Dricus du Plessis. Just having a close fight with the champion or the challenger that wins the belt does not mean you deserve an automatic rematch. First of all, Sean Strickland wasn't a defending champion. He had just got the belt. He didn't even deserve to fight against Israel Adesanya. He was on like, a 1 or 2 fight win streak, and he got the fight because he took it on short notice. Then he goes and loses to du Plessis. Fair enough, a close fight. You can argue he won, but he lost on paper. He had 25 minutes to get du Plessis out of there. Took it to decision, and he lost. The judges didn't get it to him. Then he goes to a pitter-pat decision against Paulo Costa. Very lackluster fight. Just kind of throw teeth and jabs the entire 5 rounds, and like he always does. And yeah, man, I just don't agree with, like, just because you had a close fight with the champion and you win one fight after, you deserve another title shot. I just don't agree with that. And especially whenever you have a guy like Sean Strickland, who's like the tough guy American, and he's on Twitter crying about getting a title shot, like, oh, bro, it's me next, dude. Nobody's passing me up. And saying that he's going to sit out until he gets a title shot. I cannot stand whenever fighters cry on Twitter and say they're not going to fight until they get another title shot. To me, that's just silly behavior. Like, bro, if that deserving of a title shot, go out there and stamp it. Go beat another guy in the division. Show you're undeniable. Don't just sit there crying on Twitter about how you deserve the next title shot. And like I said, I still don't think he deserves it. I think Khamzat deserves it over him. Khamzat's never fought for the belt. He just destroyed and submitted Whitaker in the first round. And I mean destroyed. No one's ever done that to Robert Whitaker. Even Israel Adesanya in the first Robert Whitaker fight didn't destroy him like that. Khamzat took him down, got him to the ground, and squeezed his face so hard that he popped his teeth out of place. Granted, Robert Whitaker has issues with his teeth, but either way, the point is, I don't care if Khamzat has one win in the top 10. It was a win over a former middleweight champion and probably the third best middleweight of all time behind Izzy and Anderson. So I 100% think Khamzat Chimaev deserves a title shot. And yeah, I'll leave it at that, guys. Sean Strickland can continue to cry on Twitter about it. Let's move on to the next one. You should be stripped of your belt if you don't defend it within a year. And I'll get to the second part of the text after that. So yeah, man, I 100% feel like if you're a champion and you cannot defend your belt for an entire year, then you just need to be stripped. The UFC have proven that keeping guys as champion and putting out interim belts literally means nothing. Look at Kobe Covington's interim belt whenever he got it. Look at Tom Aspinall's interim belt. There's so many times where the interim belt, look at Tony Ferguson's interim belt. There's so many interim belts that just go to waste, and it's just literally just used for promotion. Whenever the original reason for an interim belt was supposed to be that the guy who wins it fights the champion next. And in so many instances, that just hasn't been the case. And I'm just tired of that, man. If you can't defend your belt within a year, you need to be stripped, and that's it. You need to be stripped. The division needs to move on. The number 1 and number 2 contender need to fight for the vacant belt, and then you can get an immediate title shot whenever you come back from hiatus or injury or whatever you're on. And also, you should also be stripped for refusing to fight the interim champion, John Jones. John Jones, 100%. I don't care if he's considered the GOAT. I don't care if he's John Jones and he has star power. The UFC is supposed to hold all the cards. They're supposed to say, hey, man, this is a meritocracy. Tom Aspinall has the belt. I don't care if you think he deserves it or not. If he's the interim champion, if you don't want to fight him, we're going to strip you and you can move on. If John Jones wants to fight Alex Pereira, that's fine. Vacate the belt. He keeps talking about how he's going to do it, but he's walking around parading as heavyweight champion despite beating a 42-year-old Stipe whenever he has an active, dangerous heavyweight interim champ who I would consider the real champ at this point. But yeah, man, I'm just tired of the whole interim thing. I wish they would just get rid of him. Strip the champion if he doesn't defend within a year, and we can do away with the interim belts. We'll just make vacant titles and move on. And yeah, man, like, I don't care how great you are. If you're not defending your belt, you don't need to be champion, and that's that. Let's move on to the next one, guys. Conor McGregor will never fight again. I've said this for a while. I don't think we ever see Conor McGregor inside the octagon. A lot of people seem to think that he's going to come back. I just don't see it, man. Broke his leg in the Dustin Poirier fight in 2021, and we have not seen him since. This guy has $100 million in the bank, and at this point, his public image is terrible, so we don't even know if the UFC wants him to fight, because that could be bad PR for the UFC, having a guy who just went through his legal case with the result that he got, coming back into the octagon. A lot of people, that might make the UFC lose a lot of fans. I know the casuals would love it, but you never know, man. And yeah, man, this guy's not worried about training. He's more worried about partying. You see him in clubs all the time. You see him at bare knuckles events. He's clearly on something. Drugs, I'd say. And yeah, Conor McGregor is not living a life conducive to being a UFC fighter. I don't think Conor McGregor beats a single fighter in the top 15 at welterweight or at lightweight. I just don't see it. He's 36 years old. He'll be 37 in July. He's not training, clearly. He has a lot of personal things going on. I just don't think this guy's ever going to fight again. I mean, the guy that once said that pulling out because of an injury is cowardly, pulled out with the injury because he broke his toe against Michael Chandler. Fair enough, but yeah, man, this guy's not fighting again. So McGregor, step aside, brother. No, I'm kidding. Let's move on to the next one, guys. Ilia Topuria is the most well-rounded fighter we have ever seen in the history of the UFC. Now, that's a bold claim right there, but let me defend it, boys. He has insane grappling, the best boxer in the UFC, finishes by KO and submission, and he's dangerous everywhere. And the insane thing about Ilia being the best boxer in the UFC, and that's pretty much unanimously agreed upon, just considering he's knocking out guys that have never been knocked out before, like a Max Holloway, and he KO'd Volk at featherweight when he was undefeated at featherweight. The insane part about it is this guy started as a grappler. Most people don't know. Ilia Topuria is a grappler, and he came up and developed his boxing to be as dangerous as it is. The recency bias and the recent results in his fight have shown that he's one of the best boxers. No, he's the best boxer in the UFC. I mean, there's nobody that's better. And yeah, man, this guy's a grappler. He has insane wrestling. He has insane grappling skills. And you even hear stories from Gilbert Burns, from other guys, that this guy's out grappling and finishing Dagestanis in the gym. He's knocking out welterweights. He's submitting and finishing Dagestanis. He's stopping their takedowns. And I believe it, man. His performances speak for itself. He's never lost, 15-0. The most well-rounded fighter ever in the history of the UFC. Yes, more well-rounded than Islam, even though I would pick Islam to beat him just because of the size advantage and the threat of the head kick. That's really Ilia's only weakness in his entire game, I would say, is leg kicks, because he stands heavy on his front foot. But I still think this is the most well-rounded fighter we've ever seen in the history of the UFC. I'll die on that hill, boys. Let's move on to the next hot take. Khamzat Chimaev submits Dricus du Plessis in round 1. I had this same claim about Robert Whittaker. I made a video way back when, before he fought Robert Whittaker. I said that he was going to submit Robert Whittaker in the first round, and I got called delusional in the comments. And I'm once again going to reiterate, I think that Khamzat Chimaev runs through Dricus du Plessis in the first round. He's the most dangerous first-round grappler we've ever seen. His first-round grappling is like facing Francis Ngannou in the first round on the feet. It's extremely dangerous. And at any point in the fight, you could get choked out or finished in some way on the ground. And yeah, man, Dricus has been taken down by lesser grapplers in his UFC career. Wasn't Dricus taken down by Darren Till? Am I imagining that? I might be coping / being delusional, or maybe he was taken down by Brunson. I know for sure he was taken down by Whittaker. And I understand that Dricus can get back up, but he's never fought a guy as strong as Khamzat. Like, people were talking about Khamzat, there's no way he submits Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker's anti-wrestling is too good. He's not going to be able to submit him. And look what he did, man. He went out there, he took Whittaker down and easily submitted him in the first round without much trouble, really. So I think Khamzat, he's just too dangerous. He's too good on the ground. He's going to go out there. He's going to destroy Dricus du Plessis in the grappling, and he's going to take his belt. And Khamzat's going to be the champion. Khamzat Chimaev, new mythical fighter, unlocked. Let's move on to my next hot take. We got Tom Aspinall will become the greatest UFC heavyweight ever, and John Jones will look bad in the future for not fighting him. I 100% believe in this. I think Tom Aspinall will go on to become the greatest UFC heavyweight, just because I'm going to be 100% real. I think Tom Aspinall is amazing, but the UFC heavyweight division is in one of the weakest points it's ever been in, and he's so much better than everybody else at heavyweight. I just don't see anybody that beats him. He already smoked the most dangerous guy in the division in Sergey Pavlovich. He smoked Curtis Blades in a rematch because people were coping saying, oh, dude, Curtis Blade was beating him in those first 15 seconds. Then Tom Aspinall blew out his knee. Outside of blowing out his knee against Curtis Blades, he is undefeated in the UFC, and he has the shortest fight average UFC time at like a little over 2 minutes. So yeah, man, Tom Aspinall will become the greatest heavyweight of all time, in my opinion. There's nobody at heavyweight that beats him. He smokes Volkov in a rematch. He smokes Gon because Gon's not dangerous, and he'll just take him down and submit him. He smokes Pavlovich again if they fight. He smokes Jelton Almeida. Jelton Almeida's not taking Tom Aspinall down. I know a lot of YouTubers are spinning that narrative. Like, yeah, man, if Jelton Almeida gets Tom Aspinall down, it could be trouble. No, dude. Tom Aspinall, let's not pretend like he hasn't been doing jiu-jitsu since he's 7. Let's not pretend like this dude's not a lean 255 pounds. He's not just going to get taken down by some schmuck like Jelton Almeida. No, I'm kidding. Jelton Almeida's good, but he's not beating Tom Aspinall. But yeah, man, my point of this take is that Tom Aspinall will go on to become the greatest UFC heavyweight ever, and all those John Jones meat riders are going to have to turn back and say, you know what? John Jones does look bad for not fighting Tom Aspinall, and he does look bad for ducking him and fighting a 42-year-old Stipe. That's my point. Let's move on to the next hot take, boys. Jamal Hill is a bit overrated. I think he loses to most of the fighters in the top 10 at light heavyweight. His best wins are against a 42-year-old Glover coming off a war with Yuri and a washed Thiago Santos, who he struggled against. People forget, man, as they say, he struggled against Thiago Santos. He got him out of there in the 4th round, but Thiago was giving him all he could handle in that fight. And then people give him way too much credit for beating Glover. Way too much credit. First of all, he fought a 42-year-old Glover on the feet who was coming off one of the most insane wars against Yuri. And whenever you go through a war like that at 42 years old, you're not going to come back your best self. So Jamal Hill 100% did not face the best Glover Teixeira. And it was a fight on the feet that never went to the ground. And Jamal Hill didn't finish a 42-year-old Glover Teixeira. Now, say what you want, but I think if you put Alex Pereira in there with Glover Teixeira, I know that's his training coach, but if you put Alex Pereira in there with a 42-year-old Glover, he's sending him to the shadow realm. I don't know what other way to put it. Jamal Hill gets way too much credit for that win, in my opinion. And yeah, man, the first time he faced Alex Pereira, he got chinned, and he got his O taken by Paul Craig back in the day. Fair enough, Ankalaev did too. But yeah, man, Jamal Hill's just been sitting around yapping and coping way too much about his loss to Alex Pereira, saying that if Alex Pereira fought him like he fought Khalil Roundtree, then he would KO Alex Pereira in the first round, and just being completely delusional. I need Jamal Hill to prove himself, because right now, I think he loses to Khalil Roundtree. I think he loses to Carlos Alberg. I think these guys beat him. And maybe he can get a win over Yuri just because Yuri's chin might be shot. I don't know. I probably will pick him to beat Yuri, despite making the claim that he loses to most fighters in the top 10, but I just think this guy's overrated, man. I'll leave it at that. Let's move on to my last hot take, my second to last hot take of the video. Grabbing the cage should be an automatic point deduction. I 100% support this. Would make fighters think twice about cheating. In fights, you see so many times, nearly every single time, they grab the cage and the ref says, don't grab the cage, pulls their hands off. And then they do it again and again, and the point's never taken. If you started taking points the first time they do this, then we wouldn't have as many cage grabs, because the fighter would say, you know what, I'm not going to grab the cage because I'm going to lose the round automatically and potentially lose the fight. How many times do the fighters grab the cage and get away with it? Nearly every single time. And the issue with that is they know before the fight that grabbing the cage is not a thing you're supposed to do. It's cheating. Like an eye poke, right? You can accidentally eye poke somebody. You don't accidentally grab the cage. That's 100% intentional. If you're grabbing the cage, you meant to grab the cage. I don't know what other way to put it. The reason I put Michael Chandler on the screen is because he was doing all the cheating in the world against Charles Oliveira, grabbing the cage, back of the head shots, grabbing his glove, just fighting. He fish hooked Dustin Poirier. This dude's just a dirty fighter, and he comes off as Mr. Nice Guy Chandler. But at the end of the day, man, this guy's doing all the fouling. And yeah, I just think grabbing the cage, if they were to automatically deduct a point, you would see a lot less cage grabs, and fighters would be like, man, maybe I shouldn't grab the cage. Maybe I should get up like a real fighter would and not cheat. Either way. And yeah, there's a lot of fights that people would have lost faster or gotten finished if they didn't grab the cage. It completely changes the course of fights. So yeah, man, they need to be more strict about this, in my opinion. And the last hot take of the video, this one's interesting. If a title fight goes to a draw, there should be a round 6 to decide a winner. I do not think we should have title fights that end in draws. I think that's absolutely silly. I don't see the issue with going one more round to round 6. You read the judges' scorecards. Okay, it's a draw. Like they don't even do the Bruce Buffer announcement saying it was a draw. What they do is they get the judges' scorecard. The second it's decided it's a draw, they say, okay, we're going to go to a sudden death, round 6, and whoever wins this round is the winner of the fight and crown the champion. Because whenever Ankalaev and Jan Blachowicz went to a draw, and the belt remained vacant. That was just so weird. And then the UFC had to create a belt between Glover and Jamal Hill out of nowhere to like hurry up and try and forget about this fight, whenever they could have just solved the problem by going to a round 6. I don't know. I don't think it's that crazy of an idea to say that you should have a round 6 if there's a draw. It would solve a lot of the issues in the UFC. I do think this should be reserved for title fights. It shouldn't just be for random fights. Like if you're just a normal fighter fighting a contender and you get a draw, it's a draw. But in a championship fight deciding for a belt, I don't think the UFC champion, like let's say you fight a champion, right? And you fight him to a draw. I don't think he should just retain his belt. I think there should be a round 6 to decide the winner. And then, yeah, man, you go from there. There's no draw. Life goes on. Everybody's happy. There's a conclusive winner. But yeah, this is some of my hot takes, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I cannot wait to see the replies. I already know there's going to be some people in the comments calling me absolutely delusional, saying that I am just coping and that I'm an idiot. And I'm ready for all of it. Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for all the support on the recent videos. Shout out to all the channel members and all the donators of the stream and all the subscribers and likes and comments. I appreciate every last one of you guys. And yeah, man, that's it for today's video. I'm out, and peace, guys.